All right, so today I want to talk about something that I don't talk enough about, and that's the head. I want to talk about shaping the entire head, not just the face, so much as setting up the structure of the head and the skull and the eye sockets, all that stuff. So we're going to be kind of talking about that. Per usual, I got my 1x1x6. I've got an 1.5" blade. I've got a strap nearby, a pencil. Now to start, wanted to use my friend here. This is actually a student who wasn't very good. No, this is a Vic Hood joke. Anyway, the point is there is a correlation to the length of a head and the width of a head, and you guessed it, they're about equal. Generally speaking, the height of the head is about equal to the depth of the head, right? So that's the first thing I wanted to talk about because it's one of the more important things in terms of kind of setting up the shape of the head. Other thing to consider, we could talk about it more, but the length of the head is about 1.6 times wider than the width from zygomatic arch to zygomatic arch, right? From cheekbone to cheekbone, it's about 1.6 times the cheekbone width at the height, right? That's the idealized form. Now, is that true in most human cases? It might be a little less than that. Usually it's probably 1.5, 1.4, but the idealized form is that. So I'm going to go in with my 1x1. I'm going to make a marking 1 inch from the bottom of the piece because we know, well, if we have 1 inch of depth here in this block of wood, we want the face to be about 1 inch long. So I'm going to draw that marking there. Ooh. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to apply that to the whole piece. And by the whole piece, I mean all 4 sides. And then we'll get to see how far off I was. Got a little low there. No, close enough, right? So the face is going to set into the corner, right? So I can go ahead and I can make a little V cut underneath this bottommost line here, or this first line that we've drawn. Okay, and for the face, we want to divide things into thirds, so we could leave a little bit for the, well, we're not going to do any hair really, so let's just say from the top of the skull to the bottom of the chin, we divide, well, from the top of the turn of the head, it's a little more complicated than that, meaning this angle, right, this kind of major plane transition from the top of the head to the front of the head, right at that angle from there to the bottom of the chin, we divide that into thirds. So I'm going to start with a V cut, dividing these shapes up. Now we could use a pencil, would be a good idea to kind of divide these up with a pencil, because right now I'm kind of taking a risk that I'm not exactly right. I'm going to take the angle of this lower third down, like so. All right, let me brighten this up a little bit for you guys. Hopefully that's a little clearer. All right. So once again, from the turn of the head, right where the head transitions into the front plane, to the bottom of the chin, this bottom line here, divided up into thirds, and then I created V grooves. Right now, once I've done that, I've reduced this lower third, right, this material between the last little dividing line and the bottom of the chin here, and I've taken that and I've kind of cut it down and angled it downward, so it's kind of a downward slope from this peak here now, right? So I'm going to go back in, I'm going to recarve underneath the chin, what will soon be the chin, like so. Then what I want to do is I want to come around the back here, and I want to make sure that the head is about as deep from the tip of the nose as this head is tall, about 1 inch. Okay, so it's going to come back. Now I can go ahead and I can take this corner off of this block. And I can do the same on this side as well. I can take the corners off of all 3 sides, not the face here. I'm going to leave that alone for now. All right. Taking those corners down. Because again, we know that we want the face to be narrower than it is tall, right? Because we've got that 1.6 times the width gives us the height. So we're going to take it down just a little bit more. Nice. Awesome. Now, of course, I'm not accounting for the shoulders here, really, because I'm kind of paring this whole thing down. All right. Get my light focused here. Alrighty. Wunderbar. All right, so we continue onward. I'm going to take the side of the head, and I'm going to continue this V-cut along this line that we drew here, the 1-inch line. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing on this side. I want to define the side of the head. And of course, I still want to bring this back, and we can consistently check from the bottom of the chin to the top of the head should equal from the tip of the nose to the back of the head. We're very close, close enough. I'll take a little bit more off, and then we're golden. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these corners down at the top of the head, start to round this bad boy out. Always easier to start with flat planes and then take those corners down to create a rounder form. All right, so remember what we talked about in the skull, the proportions. Well, he's going to come back out again, our ill-mannered student. And I want you to notice something else about this. Here's the front, here's the back. What happens? It tapers down to the front of the occipital bone. And we want to have that kind of tapering, but not only does it taper from the top view, but it also tapers from the side view. So notice it comes down, right? So we don't want this to be kind of a square here. We want this to have a nice uphill slope to the very top of the frontalis bone here, or sorry, parietal bone here. So right now we've got a very flat area. So I want to take this down here to get that nice transition of form into the skull. I'll take my forehead back a little. And remember there's narrowing here as well, so I'm going to take a little bit out of the face. These side planes here, right? Here and here. So I'm coming in, turning the face facing me, turning it on its side, and then taking the edges of that face down a little bit so we start to narrow as we move towards the nose from the back of the head. I'm going to continue this stop cut here underneath the chin on both sides. Already done so on one. Do it on the other. I'm going to deepen this V cut underneath the chin. I've got 3 planes here. 1, 2, and I've turned the carving to the other side to get 3. So we've got this guy, and this guy. All right, so we're starting to see the shape of the head form. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to get rid of these saw marks on the wood that left behind from whoever milled this wood. Rip saw marks. All right, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to bring this nose back a little bit more. Or this brow ridge, rather. Okay, now we can go ahead for the sake of getting things right. We're not going to do too much in the face, as I said, but let's go ahead and let's extend this brow line down with a V cut, just a V cut, but again, we're extending that line down. So we've got along the brow ridge. This is that first third mark, pencil marking. We're going to define that. Okay, now we've got kind of a little bit of a structure in the head, which is what we're after. All right. Excuse me as I get my focus here. There we go. That's better. All right. Now, as I continue to address this head, I want to make sure that we do have enough taper. So I'm going to take a little bit more out of this front part and begin to take some of the sharp corners down left behind from these flat planes that we created. Best way to do that is continuing to take the corners down and kind of cut these planes, if you will, in half, and then in half again. And of course we want to come back behind the neck as well, indicating the occipital bone and this kind of turn of the occipital bone to the insertion point of the traps back here, right here. This is the occipital protuberance. So we want to have this kind of area come back in after we get past the skull. So I'm going to say, about a third of the way up the face, so lining up with the nose, we're going to really start to drop off the back side of the head. Just like so. And I'm going to turn the carving on its side and catch these outer planes as well. So we've got 1, 2, 3 planes in the back. Similarly, we've got 3 planes in the front. 1, 2, 3 in the front, right? Okay. Let's talk about ears. All right. Now the ears tend to line up with the brow and the nose. So we're going to try to keep these lines straight. That's not the straightest line, but that's close. So the brow and the nose. Okay, that's kind of the area. Now how do we determine where to put that ear, right? And we know where the top and bottom is, but do we know where to put it? Yeah, well, where we put it is halfway between the nose and the back of the head. So if we kind of measure that out, it ends up right about there. So that's where that ear starts. So I can take that line and bring it on over. And we should have the halfway mark. Okay, we can always check it. Boom, boom, looks good. Now the ear is going to live back behind this line. Okay, same thing here. Right in here, right? So we can go ahead and roughly block it in by just taking a little V-cut along this box. I'm not going to get too fancy with this block in. I'm really just trying to show where things belong. Less, finely render everything over the course of such a short video. Right, and so these little V-cuts, and then I can reduce behind them, and I can even take the corners off of them to start to get some of the shape of the ear. You take a little bit more off of that bottom corner to get that ear tapering. Just like that, you can see the ear is starting to show up on that side. So we'll do the same thing over here. Box it in. Oops, a little V-cut. Okay, all along that box. Relief cut. Okay, pretty nice. Take the corners down. And may have gotten a little symmetrical problem there. Might be a little smaller on this side, but we can always shrink the other side. And that is close enough. A lot of room for variation from person to person. I'm going to round the back of this head, take these flat corners or these sharp corners down, and start to do the same up here. Take the corners and just kind of flatten things out, or not flatten things out, round things out a little bit more, make things less flat. We've got a very prominent flat spot on his head here that we don't want. So I'm going to take that down. All right, and already we're starting to have a nice little form for the head. Okay. The jaw, let's talk about the jaw for a moment. Now the jaw, starting at the chin, is going to angle slightly upward, depending on the person. I'm going to do a scoop cut. So I'm going in with the blade, and then I'm turning downward. And then a relief cut underneath. And that's kind of how I set the jaw. Same thing here. slight turn upward. On a female, you'd see even more dramatic an angle oftentimes, and also less prominent jaw in general, less material down here. So you might remove a little more. I want to look at my left and right sides, make sure I'm lined up, and that's good. And now I want that jaw secondary turn to come right behind the ear. So I'm going to take a little cut there, or right at the ear, and then I'm going to turn upward, just like so. I'm going to do the same thing over here. So a little cut towards the ear. There it is. And I'm going to reduce the area behind it. Just like so. Here's another helpful tool when you're looking at the forms of the face to kind of get a simple idea of where things are. Of course, this is a little bright. There we go. It's a little easier to see. Looking at that turn, right at this third of the nose where that occipital bone meets the neck area at the trap, just like there, just like so. Taking that back a little more. Okay, so starting to see the shapes come alive. Going to take a little bit less angle out of this brow because it looks like he's really sad. So I'm going to take a little more out of the outside edges for the lateral canthal region. Just like so. Narrow that up. And I'll take a little bit more from this nose area. Create a little V profile to this nose by taking the knife, turning it at an angle. Little V cut here, V cut here. And ooh, we got to brighten this up, don't we? We've lost some light. Excuse that. Okay, I'm going to take the area just to the side of the nose. I'm going to make a stop cut, or the side of the ear. I'm going to bring this area down. Same thing here. So make a stop cut along the front of the ear. Now when I'm making that stop cut, notice the angle is like so. So I'm going over. And then I want to take away from the side of the face. And I also want to make sure that ear is protruding, and so that's part of what this is. But also, the head tends to narrow past the cheekbone. So the cheekbone is going to run right in line with the bottom of the nose. Right, so the bottom of the nose runs over. We can take a little hollow, little turn out of the cheekbone, or the cheek area, just like so. All right, same thing on this side. Little turn, and a little material removed, and you can see the cheek area there. And we'll take a little bit out from the temple, up here, and same thing here. A little bit out from the temple, and gives us a little more room to round things out. And of course you could add hair, but we're just trying to pay attention to the forms underneath the hair. Okay. Getting close here with our progress. And now is really the time to kind of go in and soften these edges. Go in. Take these corners down. If you notice any big symmetrical issues or symmetry issues, you can go in and fix them. I'm liking that. We've got the taper in the head there. Move this over. Let's move this whole thing over just a little bit, see if we can see this more clearly. How about that? Might be a little better. Might be a little better. Got some serious sunlight here. Excuse me. Excuse that camera movement. There you go. Really, we've got the narrowing of the jaw. We can reestablish that jaw, because sometimes when you do establish the hollowing along the jaw and the cheek, it brings that line down. So I'll reestablish it. And I'll come back in and redefine the hollowing. that second V cut that we made going up to the jaw. Same thing here, up to the jaw. Define that a little bit more. Okay, well, I'm going to clean up behind the ear a bit, but really, guys, it's getting pretty close. I'm going to take this ear overall form, and I'm going to take the front corner down, because I want this ear to start meeting the side of the face and to kind of lift up, to kind of come up further away from the face as it moves backwards. So we can even create a little undercut, if we wanted to, behind the ear, although now we're getting a little fancy. Point being, we want to take this ear and take this front edge and bring it down so it's tapered, so that as we move backwards, the ear starts to come towards us from that profile perspective. Now we can take a little scoop out of either side of the nose to really get the form of the nose set in. Of course, it's not necessary, we're not totally focused on the nose, although it's nice to have a little block-in of the face to kind of show people what you're doing here. If you do want to actually just leave this the way that it is, you can let it be its own little character as a reminder of these forms and review this when you're struggling with the face. Okay. And, you know, taking a look from left to right to make sure things are looking nice and symmetrical. It's a great idea as well. Beautiful. And we'll just clean things up a little bit more. Get rid of any fuzzies back behind the ear. Well, that's a pretty decent representation of the block-in of the face. Now, there's a little more that can be done, of course. We could go in and we could really form the mouth mound. In fact, I'll just say really quickly to do a little indication of that. Let's do it. From the bottom of the nose to the bottom of the chin. If we divide this area into thirds, right? So if I grab my pencil and I go boop, boop, divide this into thirds, that gives me the separation or the opening of my mouth, this first third. And then this bottom third, the transition of the lower lip into the chin. So we're going right over those lines with little V grooves. Okay. And we'll go back over this top one once again. Beautiful. And then I'll just take these corners down. Just take these corners down. And you have a little indication of the mouth. All right, so we can clean up the symmetry. The left, you know, sometimes I've got something a little higher on one side or lower or deeper, so we can go in and kind of take a gander. And when we're doing that, remember that you can always take away material. You can't add it back. So if you've got something that's lower on one side, you've got to lower it on the other side. You can't raise it up, right? Because you can't make wood appear where it isn't. All right, well, that's that, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope it was helpful to you in setting up the forms of the face. If you have any more questions on this, I have an online school where I break down all these principles and a lot more. We do busts, where we fully render reference or carvings is, wow, speaking of Gollum, all sorts of faces, young and old, male, female, different ethnicities, you know, fully rendered portraits there. So check that out in the description below. And anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this. I know I had fun. We'll talk to you in the next one. Bye. Take your vitamins, by the way.